You know, I like to think of myself as a smart person. Or rather, I should say, I like to give the impression to other people that I'm a smart person. I don't think this is a way to determine a person's intelligence, but they say that once you go to school and get those magical pieces of paper that qualifies you of knowing something. I have 2 pieces of paper like that displayed in my office. You know, as much as I know, as much as what people think I know, at least as much as I think I know, regardless of how much I'm supposed to know, there are still times when I do not know. And it's at these times that I seek help. And I typically do not seek help just from anybody. I have a certain criteria that I try to follow when I try to seek help from people. Some of this criteria includes the person has to be somebody I trust, or at least somebody that I trust can help me with what I need help with. Second, the person has to know something about what I need help with. The person may be considered by some to be an expert. And who or what is an expert? Well, by definition, according to the dictionary, an expert is a person who has comprehensive and authoritative knowledge or skill in a particular area. And to try to help me with the word expert, I tried to look next to it to see if I could find a picture of somebody who's an expert. And as I looked around the definition of expert, I found no pictures. I didn't find any examples of names of people that were experts. So I guess I'm in trouble. But here is what I think I look for in an expert. Somebody, quite frankly, just somebody who I can depend on for help when I need in that situation. For example, when I need medical help, I typically don't seek a car mechanic. Or when I need help with my car, I don't seek a doctor or nurse's help. No, when I need medical help, I find a doctor or nurse. And when I need help with my car, I find a mechanic. I mean, doctors are experts about health care and the care of humans. And they don't know so much about cars, and probably might know more than they do sometimes. And just the same way, a car mechanic does not know much about health care, but they're quite experts about what it means to care for a car. Point being, when I need help, I find the person that is in the know. I'd venture to guess we all follow the same criteria. That sometimes we do not know. So we seek out the person that is in the know to help us. You know, this idea of looking for help, some may see it as a sign of human weakness. That we're weak because that we seek help from another person. But I don't know so much if it's about weakness as it's about our need to be in relationship with one another. It's about recognizing the gift that I'm not gifted with everything, and other people are just equally as gifted as I am. You know, as we look through the scriptures, God also seeks help. God seeks people to do his work. And God does not seek people to do his work not because God is not in the know. I mean, God is the know. God is in the know, and God is all-knowing. So why does God seek help? But for some strange reason, God seeks people to do his work. And I don't know about you, the people that God seems to call to do his work, God kind of, to me, does not follow this typical advice of God does not call usually the most trusted people. And usually the people at the time God calls are not the most experted people. They would seem not to qualify for what God needs them to do. But if God were to seek out those who are most trusted or most qualified, God would never find, I don't think, the right match. Rather, I think what God looks for is not so much those who are the qualified or the most trusted, but God seeks those who are open to be molded by God, those that can be formed by God. And it's in this forming process that God qualifies us and trusts us with his work. We can see plenty evidence of people not qualifying God calls. The scripture readings are an example of that. Isaiah says he is doomed, a man of unclean lips among unclean people. It's in this surroundedness, this unworthiness, God removes the wickedness and the sin in his purge that Isaiah gets called. Or we can look to the example of Paul. I think we're all aware of the story of Paul, and that before he was called by God, he was the one persecuting the church. He had permission to bring back the Christians in chains. Yet not only did God knock him off his horse and convert him, but God called him to share the message of Christ with the world. He shared the message with the world, that message of the world. And without that, his sharing of the message, the church would not be what it is today without Paul. Or we can look to the example of Simon, Peter, James, and John. Jesus called fishermen, men that would seem to not be the most qualified. Men that would later in the scriptures we find out abandon Jesus when the authorities come to arrest him. Yet without these men being called, the church would not be what it is today. We can look throughout all the scriptures and point to examples of God calling people who were not trustworthy, people that did not qualify to be called. But we don't have to look much farther than the scriptures. We can look in our world at people God calls and say the same thing, but we can look pretty closely yet. All we have to do is look in the mirror. Look at ourselves and say, point to reasons why God should not call us. We're sinful. We break people's trust and God's trust. We appear not to be qualified or be the experts. Yet the Lord calls us to follow him as his disciples. It's not because we qualify or are some experts, but because the Lord needs us to be his hands, his feet, his eyes, any body part that we can have to go out to our world. But this need is mutual. Just as much as the Lord needs to use us, we need the Lord. For it's when we put the Lord in our lives that we get proven trustworthy. It's the Lord in our lives that we're proved to be qualified. It's when we go out and to do the Lord's work that we go out and change our world. We change the world sometimes what may seem to be very small ways. But the way that we change the world makes the world a difference for many people.